There really are no experts, so to speak, in AI because it's constantly evolving. Every day I hear of a new AI company coming into dentistry. But that's the thing. They're coming into dentistry, but do they know dentistry? Do we let the patient know that we're using AI?
Yeah.
Whether that be on calls,
Mm-hmm.
which got Heartland in trouble,
Yeah.
or in our diagnostics, or in our perio charting. How are we going to address that as a profession? Hygiene is a business within the business of
Right.
dentistry. So when you have that revolving door of people coming in the front door and going out the back door, you're losing people.
AI isn't just changing dentistry, it's completely redefining it. Tune into Bite-Sized Podcast, the Dental AI and Tech Podcast, and stay ahead of the curve.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Bite-Sized Podcast. I have brought on Ann-Marie DePalma. Hello, Ann. How are you?
Hello. How are you? How's everybody doing?
I hope they're doing well. I brought Ann on because I was, like a few months ago, I was doing a bunch of research on AI and stuff, and I kept running into Ann online. I don't know what you were doing, Ann, but you were showing up for AI stuff. And so we actually wrote an ebook together about, it's called Exploring AI in Dentistry, I think is the name of it.
I think so.
Is that? Mm-hmm. I think it's Exploring. Anyway, I'll put a link in the description so you can download it. But it's mostly Ann, not me, because I didn't know all this stuff, talking about the history of AI and how it's influencing dentistry. And so we've got another little added piece of content there for you to read through. Anyway, it was a great ebook. I've had lots of people download it. Ann's kind of a guru in AI. How'd that happen?
Oh, I'm a hygienist, and my hygiene career has taken a number of different twists and turns. I ended up being clinical for a number of years in both perio and general practices, and then ended up in education. And that's where I really fell in love with education, not only in terms of the patient, but also in terms of dental professionals.
So where were you? Were you teaching somewhere then? Or?
Yep, I was teaching in both dental hygiene and dental assisting programs. I've had stints in both. I loved education. Academia is an interesting animal. So left academia and ended up working for one of the larger dental vendors as a software trainer.
Oh, cool.
That's where I really picked up my love for technology, not only in terms of the education piece, but in terms of how dentistry was moving into technology. And that has just evolved into learning more and more about artificial intelligence.
It's kind of hard to miss now.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're in tech,
everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yeah. And it's rightfully so. It's definitely revolutionary. So you started a coaching company. You do coaching now.
I did a little bit of coaching, but mostly what I'm doing right now is continuing education. So as I mentioned, I have a passion for education of dental professionals. So I do a lot more continuing education programs than I do consulting, but I work with a number of different consultants as well.
Okay. All right. So you're working with dental consultants and CE, CE companies offer CE. Are you, what's the AGD thing?
Yeah, I'm not AGD PACE or CERP, but I am through the American Academy of Dental Hygiene. So I do have some certification programs.
That's cool.
Yes. So all of my courses are approved through ADH as well as for all team members. They're not just for hygienists. They're for the entire team. Doctors, hygienists, assistants, admin team members. So it covers the entire.
Are you doing mostly webinar or live kind of stuff?
I do both. Over the past couple of months, I've done a number of in-person events as well as webinars. Right now, the summer is mostly webinars, but the fall will pick back up and I'll be doing more in live.
All right. And give me some of the topics that you talk about.
Of course, AI. I combine AI with cybersecurity a little bit. My passions having to deal with TMD, temporal mandibular disorders,
Okay.
Recognizing developmental delays in children, how we as dental professionals can refer and improve the education of parents and caregivers on that. And then there's a
Okay.
course on women's health. And I take it from a different aspect than a lot of people do in terms of what we as dental professionals may not necessarily have heard of in terms of women's health conditions, things that
Okay.
I call are under the radar, but they affect women more than men.
Like what? Let's give me an example, since I
So
have no
something
idea about
called
this.
PMR, polymyalgia rheumatica.
Oh,
Never heard of it.
No, never heard of it.
Right. Raynaud's. How
Oh, that's your fingers.
that's fingers, right.
Yeah, I
And
have that. I
especially-
have that, and I'm not a woman.
See, it crosses both men and women, but more women tend to have it. And in dentistry, too, because of the vibratory motions of what we do,
Okay.
or the relationship of hormones to the TM joint, temporomandibular joint. So all of that, things
Yeah.
that we don't necessarily hear about.
No, you don't hear about any of that stuff,
Right.
but it's
that
important.
women tend to be the predominant patient population. And then how do those conditions affect what we do in dentistry?
Gotcha.
Or how do they affect the woman's oral health? For example, dry mouth or more ulcers or things like that.
So you're working with dental coaches who are working with dental practice clients, and you're saying, hey, Reynolds, let's talk about Reynolds.
We
Or
don't get that deep.
What was the first one you mentioned? What was the first one you mentioned? PMR.
Polymyalgia rheumatica.
That's not patient management restoration.
Nope. It's actually a muscle disorder.
Okay.
Okay. It affects the shoulders and the hips primarily.
So is your goal, you obviously educate from the stage and webinars, but you're working with dental coaches and you're encouraging the dental coaches to start training their teams to start talking about this. Do I get this right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I help with one of the software programs. I have a number of consultants that I work with that my background as a technology trainer, I help with them if the practice has a particular software, as well as helping the hygiene department.
Okay.
I'm working with a particular consultant that focuses on hygiene and improving the overall hygiene department.
Okay. What are some of so hygiene, the engine of the practice, at least that's what a consultant told me to call it.
So, yes.
So what are some of the operational challenges with hygiene?
So in terms of hygiene, we as dental hygienists need to be doing a comprehensive periodontal evaluation.
Okay.
When I was a trainer for the software company, I would go into offices and review a number of different reports, look at their software. And one of the reports that I was looking at would be what we call the perio to prophy percentages. And
Okay.
oftentimes those would be very low. But when I would ask the team members, what are you doing for periodontal therapy? Oh, we're fine. We do enough, but we're diagnosing. But
Okay.
looking at the data, looking at the information that was in their software,
Yeah.
they weren't.
Okay.
And when I did some chart audits, I would see, they're only doing bleeding and probing, and that's it.
Okay.
And sometimes not even just the probing. And that's not a comprehensive periodontal evaluation. Comprehensive periodontal evaluation involves bleeding, probing, mucogingival involvement, furcation involvement, clinical attachment loss, mobility, all of those things that we as hygienists were taught to do.
Yeah.
But
But
yet,
then it just
when
gets
we were
lost in the
practice,
shuffle. Yeah.
we don't have time.
Well, it's a great
Something-
place to educate the patient and, basically provide more services. Like I know last time I went for perio charting, they just checked the gums and they gave the measurement, and actually used a tool, an AI tool to do that. But all I know as a patient is like, okay, I hope my gums aren't receding. I don't know anything else of what that means.
Right.
But if they took the time while they're doing the charting or right before or after to say, here are the things I'm looking for, right? I would actually be interested,
Exactly.
I'd remember what PMR is if I was a woman, right?
Right.
Maybe I am a woman, who knows?
Exactly. So, having the time to do all of these things and educating the patient, we all go to our medical providers. We know
Hmm.
our weight, we know our blood pressure,
Yeah.
we know our cholesterol levels, among other things.
Yeah.
But when we go to our hygienist or our dentist, we don't know, like you said, yeah, you're worried
We have
about,
no
is
idea.
there recession?
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
about all you
know
know.
how healthy my gums are, but doing that complete comprehensive evaluation helps
Why
educate
does it
them.
get why does it get shortchanged? Why does it not get done? Because I've never, in all of my years of going to the dentist, nobody's ever given me any information about that other than, hey, this is to check for recession.
Time.
It's
I
a time
only
machine.
have anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to do a
Hmm.
million and one things. And that keeps increasing over time. The more technology comes into our practices, the more things as hygienists we're asked to do. But yet, that using technology, especially artificial intelligence, can actually give us back time. So,
So when I went in recently, this is like 2 months ago, they had an AI tool. She was just reading off the numbers, and the AI was picking it up and putting it in the patient management somewhere. If they don't have that, they got to have two people in the room, right? One to read the numbers and one to write them down.
not necessarily.
No?
In one of my programs, someone sent me a slide that I included in the program that shows a hygienist trying to do her charting,
Yeah.
but yet she only has two hands. She has to use her foot to do the perio
Oh,
charting.
yeah. It's got her foot up there with a pencil in it
Right.
for typing.
Exactly.
That's tough.
A lot of times it's just on the hygienist herself or himself to try to
Oh, so you're
do.
saying there isn't another person that can come in the room and help them
Right.
out?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I
usually
gotcha.
just the hygienist alone. Now, in some practices, they may have the assistant come in or they may have an administrative team member come in and help,
Yeah.
but those are limited.
What's the cost, the lost opportunity, the lost cost of not spending some time educating the patient here? Do you have any numbers or anything
I
like
don't know
that on it?
numbers off the top of my head, but in terms of education, the patient doesn't value what we do. We know today in dentistry, we know that the mouth is connected to the body. We've
Nuh-uh.
always known that.
Is it?
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, it's connected. Oh, it's right here.
Right.
So, I know what you mean by that. It's connected to
Exactly.
indications on health issues related to the body.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
So the patient, by not hearing the numbers and understanding what's going on in their mouth,
Right.
just thinks, oh, it's a cleaning. It's just a cleaning.
Yeah.
And I hate that term, just a cleaning. It's more than that. We as hygienists do so much more. We're educated beyond just doing a cleaning. So when a patient doesn't value what we do or doesn't understand what we're
Well, they can't
doing,
value it unless they understand it. Right.
right, right. And unless you have the time to educate, just sitting there scaling teeth, asking how your day was,
Right.
how your family is, chit chat stuff. That's great. And
Yeah.
we need that. We need
Yeah.
that interpersonal connection. But we also need to be educating our patients about their oral and systemic health.
Well, I would
We-
imagine that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I would imagine that, establishing yourself as an authority. There's a lot of dentists, right? But how do you establish yourself as an authority with your patient base? And how do you retain those patients, right? There's such a massive problem in marketing where you're just focusing on new patients, but they're just walking out the back door. So I would imagine this has an influence on patient retention because they value as an authority, right? As well as providing other services and improving your case value.
Right, exactly. So when you have the time to do something, you educate the patients better, you improve the practice's productivity and profitability. We also have to remember that dentistry and dental hygiene are businesses. Hygiene is a business within the business
Right.
of dentistry. So when you have that revolving door of people coming in and in the front door and going out the back door, you're losing people.
Yeah. Well, you're just stuck. You're treading water, right?
Right.
So when I went in to the dentist and she was using some AI tool, tell me, what was she using or something? Are you familiar with the products out there that are
Yes,
doing
there
that?
were a couple of different products that are out there right now. Bola.ai is
Mm-hmm.
one of them.
Okay.
Denti.ai is another that have charting, periodontal charting,
Okay.
voice activated AI periodontal charting. They also have other aspects to their various products. And whenever I'm talking about products in AI, I say that there are a number of different products out there,
Mm-hmm.
on the periodontal charting side, on the restorative charting side, on the imaging side. And you have to decide for your practice and for your patients and the team. The team always needs to be involved in choosing a product.
Right, because it
Yeah,
fundamentally changes their workflows and tasks and so forth.
exactly.
What are these softwares doing? So I can imagine what they're doing, but it's obviously a note taker to some degree, but it's somehow connected to the practice management system
Correct.
because it's putting the charting into the right spots, right? Can
You
you talk
it
about the technology really quick?
it integrates directly, usually through their technology, where you're doing your AI voice charting and it goes right into your software program. You don't necessarily have to open up another software to get there and put all your charting in there. So, for example, previously there was another product that was out there that you would chart periodontally totally in that other software and wouldn't go into your practice management software. So there
Oh,
were
so you had
two
to
separate,
you had to manually move it in?
yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Or you just leave it in the older, the periodontal charting software, and you don't
Uh,
have anything in your PMSs. So with the AI companies, they're working to be integrated fully in your software. And I'm not a techie, so I'm not going to go into any of the technology side of it, but they usually are integrated.
I'm pretty sure they're probably integrating the same way that we're doing with like Annie AI, our AI dental receptionist. It's basically an API integration. It's a piece of software that basically lets one piece of software speak to the practice management system, right? So I'm sure it's the same kind of an integration, but the logic behind it is different. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
okay. Well, that's cool. So, and there's a lot, I actually did an interview with a doctor named Dr. Leland Wheelhoy. He was talking about diagnostics and Vidya AI. They're using Vidya AI in their DSO. And part of that conversation went on to talk about how there's lots of these small, like task-oriented AIs right now. But what's going to happen is all of these are going to get gobbled up as they gobble each other up. So like right now, we got our dental AI receptionist that does one task, answers phones, makes outbound calls, does web chat, that kind of stuff. But then you've got Bola and Denti.ai that you mentioned that do perio charting. I think doesn't Bola do insurance verification too? Or do they both do it? Do you know?
I'm sorry. I didn't hear that.
Insurance verification.
Yes. They can.
Yeah, there's another couple companies that do that. Then you get the diagnostic companies that are doing diagnostics, X-ray stuff. I imagine that over time, and very quickly, actually, probably in the next 2 years, you're going to buy an AI product that does 5 or 6 of these things all in one system.
Exactly.
Because the problem you run into is you run into a cost problem. Each one if you're using separate AIs, they're all paying for fees that are duplicated,
Right.
like we have to pay, like say Dentrix or Eaglesoft to get access to connect our system. But I'm sure so does Denti.ai, and I'm sure Bola does, and I know Pearl and Overjet and the diagnostic companies are doing it. Stratus, it does insurance verification, a couple other companies. So they're all paying the same fee to get access to the same information, do the same thing.
Right.
But who's paying for it? Well, the doctor's paying for it,
right.
unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and in today's budget conscious environment, practices and practice owners are going to be looking at that bottom line. Why am I paying X company when Y company does the same thing but gives me more?
Yeah.
What's my ROI, basically?
I have a topic that I want to talk about that wasn't necessarily in our prep call, but since you've had experience in cybersecurity, and AI is like a new frontier in terms of cybersecurity, Like there was I don't know if you read the article about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but Heartland got smacked with a class action lawsuit because they broke the federal wiretapping law because they have an AI tool that was listening to the conversations and then training their agent. And they didn't, so there's that. And there was an AI breach for a product last week. I can't remember what it was called, team or something like that. Anyway, so the question to you is this: if a doctor is investigating an AI software, what questions do they ask and what should they be aware of in terms of like protecting against issues? It's not that every AI tool out there is a problem, but they should be aware of the cybersecurity issues. Do you have something to say about that?
So when I do my program, I have a whole list of questions, not only in terms of just regular cybersecurity, but in terms of AI. Whenever you're talking to any AI company, including my social practice, in Annie, that you ask these questions as to, how is the data being trained? Access to HIPAA, making sure that everything is HIPAA compliant. Are you doing everything in the U.S. or is something sent offshore? So there's a ton of different questions that you have to ask and get the answers and then determine for yourself, like I said earlier, what's going to benefit your practice and your team and your patients. Because ultimately, it's all about the patient, whatever we're doing, whether that be AI or practice management software. It's all about helping the patient.
Yeah, and you got to protect their information. And I would say primary that you didn't mention, but only because it's obvious, but you need to get a B assigned.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
Exactly.
In addition to asking the questions of how the data is saved, where it's stored and transferred. Because in HIPAA compliance issues, you have to encrypt data in a static environment and when it's moved. Being moved from one database to another database, and where are those databases and so forth. So right now, I don't think that there is, even in the HIPAA requirements and regulations, they don't even have anything that kind of addresses this stuff. It's come so fast that I believe that those protocols and the requirements are going to be fleshed out here in the next pretty soon. Really
I heard later this year that there's going to be updates to the HIPAA security rule. And hopefully there'll be
they've got to be incorporating AI into it for sure.
It's changing so fast. There really are no experts, so to speak, in AI because it's constantly evolving. Every day I hear of a new AI company coming into dentistry. But that's the thing. They're coming into dentistry, but do they know dentistry?
Yeah.
So we were talking.
Do they
earlier,
understand the complexity of the industry? Most of them, if they've come from outside, they don't. They'll learn quick. They'll get slapped around for sure.
We were talking earlier about a company that that is AI that has both medical and dental. And my concern about it is how does it know what to do in dentistry? Yes, it may know medicine, but does it know dentistry as well?
Yeah. In the AI receptionist game, I can comment on this a little bit. So when we built Annie, we built it custom from the ground up so that anticipating some of these problems that hadn't been fleshed out so that the data is saved properly, it's encrypted, all that kind of stuff. But the other thing that we did is, now I forgot what I was going to say. It was super important, but I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, while you're thinking, I'll tell you.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back. One of the questions that we have, especially in a product like Annie, is do we let the patients know, and this goes back to the Heartland issue, do we let the patient know that we're using AI? Whether that be on calls, which, got Heartland in trouble, or in our diagnostics or in our perio charting. How are we going to address that as a profession?
What's so interesting about now I kind of remember what I was going to say. So, see, it's slow. It's a little bit slow. It's a man brain, not a woman's brain.
I got it. Yep.
So what happened with Heartland's issue, I wrote a couple articles about this, is that, and we should write an article together about it because you could speak directly to it, But what was happening is they were using a phone system that used AI. So it would listen to the call, and the federal wiretapping issue was about that because they didn't let the patient know. And there's like 8 states that require both parties to know. And the other, so anyway, it was with a patient in one of the states, I can't remember which one, where you had to let the patient know that they're being recorded, and they didn't notify that. But the other issue that was kind of tricky and that nobody really thought about is that they took the conversation, they ingested that into their AI brain and used it to train conversations on for other clients, for other dental practices. So what you're doing here is you're taking all of these conversations and then you're basically using the conversation, and it might be encrypted, it might not be hackable, but you're using it to train an AI to then speak language for another dental practice. And that is like, that's never been done like that.
Right.
That's never been addressed. Right. So to my point, when we built the infrastructure for Annie, we actually don't do that because we anticipated that would be a problem, and it actually happened. Right. So we train the agent solely on the practice's information, and we don't use other conversations. Yeah. Well, actually, one of the reasons why we don't use other conversations to train an agent is because most of the conversations are junk. They're not good.
Exactly.
So I don't want to train an AI agent on crappy phone calls, right? I want to train an agent on what it's supposed to do.
When I was, in between positions, I had a contract position with a small DSO in the area. And my contract position was as a training manager. So understanding their practice and helping create manuals for them, which is another thing that I can help with, helping create the manuals. And one of the areas that the practice owners wanted training on was the office's phone skills. So one of the things that I was doing was listening to recorded phone calls that were acknowledged that they were recorded, and then, training the team in
building up a framework and a scripting.
Helping with the scripting. Another time I was working as a mystery shopper. Even as a hygienist, I was a mystery shopper for an organization.
Yeah.
And I would call up and, say, oh, does your practice do implants? And the person on the other end would put me on hold. And then they would come back with an answer.
They're like,
they don't get it.
Yeah. That's interesting. All right. So if somebody wants to get involved in AI or they're considering using AI in their practice somehow, where do they dip their toe first? Where should they start?
First of all, look at what your practice needs. Where are your pain points? Is the hygiene team complaining about time? Do they need more education for their patients? Is it a practice management side? Is it, I'm short-staffed in the front. I don't have people to answer the phone. What are your pain points? And then look at the variety of companies that are out there. There's so many good companies out there that can cater to your practice.
Yeah. So you solve a problem, a single problem. You're not saying, I want AI to take over my practice. You're just saying, it's like a sniper model, right? You just say, oh, I got a problem. I'm spending way too much time on insurance verification. Find an AI insurance verification product.
And then look at it in terms of what your practice needs, what the ROI is going to be, all of those questions that, you can ask on any technology.
Cool. All right. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you and they're interested in maybe bringing you on to do some CE, or maybe it's a consultant listening and they're looking for help or some advice there or any AI question, how should they reach out to you?
So a couple of different ways. My website is HIPAA-compliant.com. Or you can email me at HIPAA-compliant@gmail.com.
Both of those links in the description. I'll put that information. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, this has been really helpful. I appreciate you coming on, and I will definitely have you back and we'll talk about something else. And I think we should definitely write an article about cybersecurity.
I love that.
I won't be able to add much to it, but I can help write it.
I think we can do it. Our two brains together will be great.
Yeah, your brain, the female brain that does most everything, and the male brain that just goes, that looks great. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay,
All right,
everyone,
take care.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Bite Size Podcast. Tune in to stay up to date with everything dental AI and tech